Are you struggling to make your resume stand out from the crowd? In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a professional resume that catches the attention of recruiters and employers. You'll learn vital tips and tricks for designing an impactful resume, as well as how you should organize each section of your resume effectively. Plus, I'll give you a bonus tip at the end of this video to make sure that your resume actually is seen by employers. I'm Karina Klingman, founder of Recruitomics Consulting and the Collaboratory Career Hub. We are passionate about helping small biotech companies grow and supporting their employees through career development, professional development, and DEI programming. All right, let's get right into it. So why is it important to format your resume well? First of all, it is the first impression that you're going to make on your potential employer, so make a good one. Second, if you have a disorganized resume, it's difficult for recruiters to actually find the information that they're going to need to know about you. I'm going to teach you some tips and tricks so that the information they're looking for is right at the top, front and center, so they're not digging around in the resume for it. Finally, crafting a well thought out and visually attractive resume is a great way to demonstrate to your potential employer that you are a detail-oriented individual. So I talk about some mistakes that you might be making in your resume in another video. I'll link to that above. And using jargon like detail-oriented is something that we don't actually want to see in a resume. We want to have it demonstrated for us. And this is a great way to demonstrate that. First, just a few tips for making a really visually stunning resume. You're going to want to organize your resume in a way that is very intuitive. So one column, at least 12-point font, no bigger than probably 14, depending on the font. And font does matter, so make sure it is very readable, not a script font. You're going to want to use a combination of white space and headings and subheadings to sort of break up the resume. We do have some examples of this. If you're interested, I'll link in the description. And you can actually grab a resume template that should help with this, but be thinking about that. If you were to step back away from your resume, what is the overall picture? Does it have nice sections that are clearly defined, and is it well broken up? So that's the tip number one. Using headings and subheadings can help to just organize things a little bit. So we're going to talk about what those headings should be for each category, but using those in addition to white space, that's going to make it a really easy to follow, well-ordered resume. All right, so let's get into the format. At the very top, you want your header, and that header should contain your name, your contact information, and a headline about yourself that really illustrates to the employer what you bring to the organization and who you are. It should be nice and bold and very clear. You should definitely put your pronouns on there, but you don't need a full address, maybe just your city and state or your region, definitely a phone number and a professional email address, all for that header. If this video is helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. We'd love to bring you more professional and career development tips just like this. The next section right under your header is going to be your highlights section. Your highlights section is going to be a list of accomplishments, successes, measurable achievements that relate directly to the job. So think about the job. What are the qualifications? What do you bring to the job? Without using jargon, you're going to list measurable achievements that highlight why you would be great in this role. For example, if you were to include a Science Innovation Award in your highlights section, that would be very relevant to a scientific position. But perhaps your spelling bee trophy from 8th grade would not be relevant. If you possess any unique qualifications, like a programming language or speaking another language altogether that relates directly to the job, be sure to put this in your highlight section as well. Next down from the highlight section is the experience section. This is where you're going to list your most recent job through maybe 3 or 4 jobs back. You don't need to list your entire experience history if you have a long work history. We really are interested in those most recent jobs, and we can always ask for a more comprehensive list if that becomes necessary. And then under those experiences, you're going to put your actual accomplishments. So not a list of things you did in the job, but things that you accomplished in the job, especially if you can draw those right back to the job you're applying for. Take the time to craft each bullet point, knowing that we are looking, especially in those most recent jobs, to see how that's going to relate to the skills required for this position. As an example, you might say something like, published 3 first author papers over 4 years and contributed biochemistry expertise to an additional 7 publications. That sort of a statement is measurable. It also shows that you are working on a team and you are willing to contribute to a team. So instead of using a jargony term like team player, you have now shown that you have successfully worked on a team, and that has resulted in publications. So if you take the time with these bullet points and really drill down on what are the measurable accomplishments, it's going to be a lot easier for your potential employer to envision you doing those same things with them. If you've held multiple positions within the same company, list those all individually. And again, show those achievements within each individual position so that you can demonstrate that you have grown and you have advanced in your career. It's really nice to see when somebody has gone from, let's say, a scientist to a senior scientist, and now they're managing a team and they're contributing at a higher level to their organization. It's so nice to see them tie that back to how it actually relates to our job. Next, under your experience comes the professional organizations that you're a part of. So only list the ones that are relevant to this job. And again, list your accomplishments. So did you volunteer? Were you on a board? Were you a member of a committee? And how does that relate to the experience required for the job? Were you in charge of something? Did you organize or plan something? What were the things that you actually accomplished for each organization? Underneath that, you're going to go into your education. Here, you're going to put your most advanced degree at the top, or if you have multiple degrees, the most recent degree. Think about your impact during that time. So instead of just listing out courses, think about the courses that were relevant to this job. And if you held any positions at school, if you were on any committees and that sort of thing, be sure to list those out, again, tying them back to the skills required for the job. The education component is a lot less important than you would think. Yes, we may have a degree requirement for a job. However, what we really want to see is what you did during that time and how you spent that time. The next section is going to be your certifications and honors if they didn't already appear higher in your resume. So no need to relist them if you felt that they were impactful enough to, for instance, be in your highlights section. However, if you have not listed something and it is pertinent to the job, put it in that section and tell us why it's pertinent to the job. And last and certainly least is the skills section. If you have already crafted your resume really well, you may not need this at all. If you've worked your keywords into those accomplishments and measurable achievements up above all of this, there's no reason to just go ahead and list other skills. If you're applying for a scientific position, we don't actually need to know that you can use Microsoft Word. So having it on a list at the bottom of your resume is less valuable than you'd think. That said, if you have a really extensive skill set in a niche area, go ahead and put those skills in there. Sometimes there's no good way to work them into the resume, and we get that too. But it's just not something we're going to go to immediately to identify if you're a strong candidate for the job. All right, so you have done all of that. You've formatted your resume. It's beautiful, it's well crafted. The last thing to talk about is how you actually submit this resume. And this is key. If you submit your resume in a file format that is not readable for our applicant tracking systems, we may never see it. So be sure when you are working on your resume to craft it into a PDF. That's preferable. It can be a Word document though. If you format it as a PDF, you are most likely to have success submitting this to multiple types of applicant tracking systems and to have your resume show up properly formatted across all devices. And since we have hiring managers looking at resumes mostly on digital devices, it's very highly recommended to submit it as a PDF. In the next video, I'm going to go over 10 totally avoidable resume mistakes, so be sure to watch that. You can format your resume just beautifully, but if you make one of these mistakes, you might be out of the running. And as always, please like and subscribe so you don't miss our content.